Right, so you just had your past life regression. So Paula, what did you get out of it?
That's a pretty open question. Let's see. Well, when I was laying down, I knew that the pain in my hips and my back were, not really going to go away. So I decided to ask for a lifetime where I could possibly, help with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to a time where I was essentially a peasant, Central Europe, probably Greece or Turkey or that kind of border. And I was a pretty stocky woman, about, I'd say maybe 45. And I was aware that I had been raped several times in my life, and not really beaten or anything, not like, there wasn't, but like just soldiers coming through or landowners from a distance. And I had 2 daughters that were as a result of the rapes. And unlike me, they were like sort of bubbly, happy teenagers. My memory was really, I sort of looked at my clothes. They were all sort of handmade from just stuff that was found. The shoes I had on were sort of handmade, I'm not really sure. They were sort of boots. And I was coming back from like a day of like working. I was laughing because I was like, I actually didn't have much work to do. I developed this nervous tendency to just dig or something, just to like, I had sort of a makeshift pitchfork that I'd made myself, and I would just go out to these fields and I would just dig and move stuff around, and people thought that I worked really hard. And sometimes I did. I mean, I would work if there was work, but if there wasn't work, I just had to leave the house. So I was aware I was coming home. My daughters kind of, were doing that thing. They were actually happy to see me and hug me and stuff. And I think I was living with a brother and their sort of extended family, but it wasn't very many people. And I was aware that I had a mass through here, that it was like, a tumor or something. And it was just getting bigger and bigger. So I kind of didn't want people to hug me anymore. And I was wearing like just that really sort of baggy cloth, whatever it was I found, so that people couldn't really see it. And I was just mostly aware of the fact that I had just given up. I just didn't really have any emotions. I just kind of, I just was going through the emotions of life for a long time. And that was sort of the day that I found myself in.
Mm-hmm. And did it move on to other?
When you were asking about moving on to things, I decided to move back into the time when I would have been sort of the age. Like before going through the door, I sort of looked at myself as sort of like a young girl, almost sort of Hollywood looking, like what Hollywood would think of as a young maiden that age, right? Mm-hmm. And so as soon as I walked through the door, I wasn't that anymore. I was, sort of a graying, woman who was, not old, but had lived a long life. So I decided to go back to like sort of the times that those rapes and stuff began. And it was, I sort of knew, I knew that because I was out in the fields by myself and stuff, that this could possibly happen, and it did. And so each time I was just sort of like, oh shit, and I got lucky. Like I said, people weren't trying to kill me. They just wanted what they wanted. And so with each time of that, the pain was still there, the physical pain of having been, but I just didn't have any emotion about it anymore. And so life went by. I did have children. It didn't seem like I was judged at all for that. I just lived in this community that was pretty remote. Everybody seemed to know, I think it must have been pretty common that women got raped and had children. So that's sort of where I did move to, and just sort of that gradual feeling of not really having any emotions and just developing those nervous twitches and that nervous need to dig and lift and be outside and not really talk to anyone. Just that got more and more acute with time. I wasn't miserable or unhappy, and the tumors and stuff weren't that painful. It was just really heavy. And I was aware that the people around me were actually pretty easygoing and happy people. They were doing okay. It looked like my daughters at the time, I thought anyway, that they hadn't suffered this, that I don't think they had been violated. I think they were having a pretty good life. And I honestly, I think I insisted on doing most of the physical labor so that I would be out in the fields and not them. Especially as I got older, and I still had a strong body. I could just feel it. It was just a lot fattier and a lot, probably less attractive to marauding soldiers and knights that would come by.
Did you get a sense of any other souls?
Yeah. One of my daughters was my friend Seta, and who isn't normally very bubbly, but in this lifetime she was. Was just a happy young person, didn't seem very burdened. And the brother in that lifetime, I believe, was my oldest brother now. Just like I said, a fairly easygoing, lighthearted person. He took care of things as well, did a lot as far as our, whatever it was we were doing, sharecropping, I don't know. Just existing in this barn that we were trying to prop up,
And did you get a sense of the time period?
Some kind of Middle Ages. Just seemed pretty remote.
And what about when you went up into spirit higher learning and lesson?
Well, the last few days of my life, I did come home one day, and there was some kind of knight in full armor. And I was aware of these people, but they seemed to be moving in. This was not something I was born with, but a knight came by, and my daughters were home, and I was, just really, really tired and drained, and I think I just felt the weight of that tumor. I knew that I wasn't going to be living much longer, and I had just that cheap pitchfork that I'd made myself, if you could call it a pitch. I have no idea what tool this could have, served, but I saw this knight, and he was on a horse, which was really pretty rare in this part, it was rare to see a horse. And so I sort of snuck up on him, and I knocked him hard off of his horse. He wasn't, he didn't see me. What little energy I had left, I knocked him off his horse really hard. So he knocked off, and I think it was the way he fell. I don't know that he specifically died, but he fell really hard and sort of hurt himself in the process because of that awful armor. And that action that I did, was just so much energy. It probably burst the tumor or something, and I passed away a couple days later. my usual happy-go-lucky family, like I said, was now extremely worried because we had done something. We didn't know where this guy was from. We knew other people would come looking for him. My brother was sort of telling me not to worry. My daughters at the time were safe and were all smiling and stuff, but we're really worried. And I just sat there lifeless. But actually, I think I was kind of proud of myself that I actually showed some human emotion. It wasn't really anger, it was just serious motivation to get this guy off our property, you know, knowing that there was no good that was going to come out of it. So I did sort of gradually leave my body, knowing that everybody was really worried, and there just was nothing I could do about it, and that their lives were going to be very, very changed from that moment. So I left, and I was actually, it was funny, I was very aware of one of the seraphim that I've had contact with in this lifetime. The wings are like a very, very large insect. They're just actually very sticky and kind of funky, and he himself just looks like a massive insect, complete with head, you know, face of like an insect most of the time. And he just sort of coiled me up and lifted me up. And he said the lesson was that it's okay to have human emotions, you know, to not necessarily be consumed by them, but it's okay to have them once in a while, and experience those emotions rather than storing it in your body. That it was more important, most important thing was not to keep those emotions stored in your body. And that was what was happening to me, just the constant heaviness and the pulling down of my body, you know, into this universe, and the whole tumor area was as a result of me just sort of blocking out the rapes, just numbing it out, and just never thinking about them.
And so it was all stored in the tumour. So what is it that you've brought back with you from that to apply now?
Well, when we got back to like the crystal cave and things, you know, I felt that lightness again, and I just felt that feeling of, you know, you didn't really have to worry about the people that you left behind, that they really, that their lightness of spirit and stuff were actually going to stay with them, and that, you know, it wasn't like there was nothing I could do about the outcome, but that it probably turned out better than everybody thought. And I sort of became that light girl again, you know, that was free to experience, you know, more of that happiness or profound sense of self. I did have a sense of self through that whole lifetime. You know, I mean, I really was a pretty strong individual, I guess, you know, having these children and, you know, raising them, and that in itself was a good thing. But the lesson from that lifetime to bring into here was to clear the stuff, you know, that it's okay to experience it, you know, and be aware of it and clean it. And, you know, a good lesson from that lifetime was that I was accepted. You know, maybe I didn't go into the village or anything like that. I didn't get the sense that I cared. You know, if there was any village gossip, I didn't care. No one in my realm of experience cared.
So there was no shame. It was just the pain.
No shame. It was, you know, family. And yeah, the actual wanting to block out. It was a sense of helplessness with the rapes. you know, I never got the sense that there was some Prince Charming that was supposed to come along and save me. I wasn't supposed to find true love, but I did have family, and it was the fact that I had just blocked it out and never spoke about it, and never.
So it was never processed.
Right.
And it was just held there.
Just numbing out of the pain, you know, and I was aware of like maybe the first time or so going somewhere and washing myself off and bleeding and things like that, and then I just started shoveling again. You know, I just got up and started shoveling.
Okay, so we can do a quantum EFT session on that to make sure that it's all completely processed, and we'll do that in a minute.
Okay. Yeah, it seemed like that was something I was supposed to do.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.